Making friends. Percy was furious. The man could tell he was furious by the way his forehead slid lazily down one side of his face, unbalanced by the thickly oozing arch of his brow. The man stared blankly at Percy's oil-slicked expression, struggling to form a response. The way the drooping planes of his face glistened in the dim light of the sewer grate caused the man's stomach acid to bubble with a rising annoyance. He looked away from Percy down into his hand, which held the remains of Delilah Stone. Her corpse dribbled thinly through the gaps in his fingers, streaming down back into the black mass. Percy had seen many come and go. He had grown especially fond of Delilah. The way their bodies used to flow into each other made the man's blood spit, and the way their liquid arms would intertwine into embrace, basked in the moonlight filtering in through the sewer grate above, would make the man seethe with an intense jealousy.
It's okay. I can make another one.
A methane bubble rose through Percy's body and burst slowly through his face. The man was less than impressed with Percy's newfound attitude, but decided to bite his tongue. They had been down here together for such a long time that it was easier to overlook such passive-aggressive interactions. But still, Percy's temperament unnerved him. The man slowly prized his hand from the black ooze and flitted it skittishly across the surface of the mass, looking for streams of looser material to work with. The mass encased the man up to his hips, so thickly treacle that he could bend only slightly, but he never struggled to find a suitable deposit. It was as if the mass humoured him in its obliquely inanimate way. Finding that there were no slipstreams near the surface, he brought his fingers together to make a point in order to ease his hands deeper into the inky swamp. The mass was greasy and slick, easy enough to manoeuvre through with some force. After some rootling, the man discovered a deposit of slime near the base of his cock, which illuminated to him a bright idea. He grinned wryly at nothing in the subterranean darkness as he wrapped his hand around the deposit and dragged it to the surface, where it erupted dully with a resigned fart. The mass's offering was a lump of rubbery viscera, coal-black and only faintly resistant. The man rubbed it between his fingers, softening the material into pliability.
I've got an idea. Something we haven't tried before, Percy.
He set to work. As the man worked, the irrigation pumps sung listlessly around him. Their gentle vibrations made the mass quiver ever so slightly, enveloping him in a comforting shrug. He always worked best when the sewage was being pumped through. There was only the moon far above by which to gauge the time. He had no way of knowing when it would come. He knew it would come sometime before midnight, when the moon could be seen drifting across the bars of the sewer grate. In a sense, he was glad he never knew for certain. It came as a comforting surprise each time, bringing with it that low, soothing hum, the smell of human waste. The closest he had come in some time to contact with the people above ground. Whilst he worked, he imagined their lives. Starched white bedding, hot showers, bleach and laundry detergent. The only slime they would ever know would be the suds collecting under the bars of soap in their pristine white bathrooms. The sound of their sewage gushing through the pipes around him gave him great comfort, relieved to know that at least sometimes they had to shit and piss just like him. That for a few brief moments a day they had to wipe their dirty arses and be confronted with the limitations of their own body. How he wished that they could all spend a day waist high in their own excreta, just as he was trapped similarly in this dark mass of greasy slime. These fantasies filled him with a soothing joy, but then he would look up at Percy, at the melting scowl on his face, at the slippery walls of his subterranean prison, and be reminded of his lot. He exhaled long and deep as he began forming a log shape from the lump. His fingers worked as if on instinct, smoothing and pinching and finessing the rubbery grease into something resembling a torso. Percy oversaw the operation, his face shifting ever so minutely like ripples in a stream.
You see, Percy, I think I've been approaching it all wrong. I know you are fond of Delilah, but I believe that what you want and what you need can be two very different things.
The man paused. He massaged the torso between his hands before using a ragged thumbnail to cut the curvature of a pubic mound.
You see, Delilah just didn't get on down here. I know you wanted her to be happy. I think you convinced yourself that she was, but you didn't hear her cry.
Percy stared blankly, unresponsive. As unresponsive as he'd ever been.
Oh yes, all night. Pitiful little cries, bubbly and choking. Yes, she was so sad, Percy. She hated it down here, not like you.
The man took a smaller lump of the viscera and rolled it between two fingers into a cylinder that bulged at one end. He attached the greasy phallus to the pubic mound of his doll. It adhered almost instantaneously, standing rigid to attention. He noticed with a satisfied pleasure that it dribbled lazily from the tip.
So I think we'll try something different. Someone who you and I can love equally. We need love to keep going, you see, Percy. And Delilah loved nobody, not even herself.
He held up the new friend he had made. He considered it briefly, before flipping it over and, using the same ragged nail, scratched a pair of eyes and a pair of lips on the torso's shoulder blades.
Anyway, she's not really gone at all, just like all the others. She returned to the gene pool, and she'll live on in him.
He gestured with their new friend.
I shall call him the Admiral. Say hello, Percy.
He plopped the Admiral onto the surface of the mass. The Admiral clung to its slowly undulating form, his glistening cock standing to attention like the prow of a ship. The man could not suppress his glee. Above them, the moon drifted within the frame of the grate, illuminating this odd little social gathering in the sewer. But as it lit up the walls of the hole and reflected off the mass, the man caught a glimpse of Percy's face. The expression had slid and morphed into something new, something closer to anguish. The parameters of Percy's greasy face fell solemnly into a downcast sadness. The man felt white-hot anger shoot up his spine.
It's shit down here for me too, you know, Percy. We really aren't so different.
The man was so angry that his words came out as throaty snarls.
Maybe you could try and have a little gratitude. I pulled you from the mass. Before me you were nothing but sewage and dirt. I will not stand here and deal with your insolence.
Percy remained silent. With two nimble fingers the man plucked Percy's ever-melting head off his body. He held Percy's face inches from his own, so that each rage-ragged breath flitted ripples across the melting geometry of Percy's expression. The detached body part felt slippery between the man's fingers. Far above, a storm cloud drifted across the moon, severing its beam. In the damp darkness of the sewer, the violent anger in the man's eyes seemed to shine ever brighter. If he could, he would have breathed fire.
I fucking loathe you, Percy. I hate being alone, but I hate having you round me more. Moping and moaning, and watching you try and melt back into the mass. Is that really better than being here with me? Is being down here with me really that bad?
Percy's head continued to melt between the pads of the man's fingers. His eyes dribbled hysterically.
Well, if that's how you feel, so be it. I made a mistake, clearly. If being in sentient grime is a preferable existence for you, then maybe I can do you one final kindness.
The man slowly brought the pads of his fingers together. Percy's head compacted and then split into a lazy dribble of black ooze. Somewhere far, far above, the storm clouds congealed and burst. The man looked up to feel the pellets of cold rain splash his face. The Admiral stood proudly, his erect cock glistening ever so brilliantly in the shimmer of the water droplets. The man smiled. He loved making new friends.